It's a shit show, but it's a hit, yo. Panel full of talkers, all bark, no soul. Drama's on tap, spilling fast and loud. Dollar signs flashing when they rile the crowd. Super chats rolling, they pay for the beef. Truth takes a backseat, clouds the belief. It's a shit show, baby, primetime gold. Numbers climb high while the morals get sold. Turn up the heat, let the chaos flow. Ain't about truth, it's a rodeo. If the views keep coming and the cash still grow, I'll stop the circus, let the madness go. Fake tears fall and the mic gets cut. One's playing victim, the other talks tough. Receipts get dropped, now the chat's on fire. A digital bonfire built from liars. But every low blow makes the money ring, so they keep on dancing in that drama swing. It's a shit show, baby, primetime gold. Numbers climb high while the malls get sold. Turn up the heat, let the chaos flow. Ain't no God truth, it's a real deal. If the views keep coming and the cash still grow, I stop the circus, let the madness go. There's a spotlight on the petty, and fame's just clicks away. They don't care who they bury, as long as someone pays. It's a shit show, baby, but the lights still shine. Even fake crowns look good online. One big game where the real get played, but the scoreboard's few, so the lies stay paid. Yeah, it's messy, ugly, and kind of slow, but welcome y'all to the shit show.
Amanita muscaria, commonly known as the fly agaric, is a striking red-capped mushroom with white spots, often associated with fairy tales and folklore. While it is toxic in its raw form, traditional and modern enthusiasts have found ways to detoxify and prepare it for consumption, primarily to reduce its psychoactive and potentially harmful compounds, such as ibotenic acid and muscimol. Muscimol acts as a GABA-A receptor agonist, similar to how benzodiazepines work, much like Valium. The sedative effects may aid people with insomnia or poor sleep quality, as reports suggest it helps reduce nighttime anxiety and rumination. Remember though, raw or improperly prepared Amanita muscaria is toxic, and overdoses can cause vomiting, confusion, seizures, delirium, or even coma. One should not be combined Amanita muscaria with alcohol, antidepressants, or other sedatives. Not recommended for people with a history of mental illness, for example, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and others. Be sure to do your research if you intend to consume them dry in microdosing or preparing them for use on salads and other dishes.
And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love. Always appreciated. And the StreamYard should be pinned down there for anybody who wants to join the panel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about mushrooms, but specifically Amanita muscaria, or otherwise known as fly agaric. And we're going to get into it with the first video here. 12,000 people ate this mushroom, and this is what we found. Now, while we're watching this, I hope we've got some other folks that are going to come over. They said they would, specifically somebody that evidently knows what he's talking about. So hopefully we'll see him. And then let's get into it with a little bit of knowledge ourselves with some videos before they come over. We're basically just going to run through these videos until they show up. And if they don't, then we'll just go drag them over if we can. So let's get into the first one. Um,
Mario Brothers mushroom is known in the video game for essentially boosting your health. It makes Mario bigger and stronger. And that actually has a lot of truth in real life, but probably not for the reason you initially thought. I finally found why this mushroom is so magical, and even better, I can now share with you some of the science.
We should tell them how to do it right.
I think it's the limitless drug.
First, if you're new to mushrooming, don't go out and start eating this mushroom.
It's not like I invented something. People were using it for centuries. You sleep good, you have appetite, you're happy. I want to share what happened. That's it.
I will explain to you why.
and so, you know, it's only in recent times where they have legislation in regards to medicine and pharmaceutical control, which also includes our modern day war against drugs. People have been using this kind of stuff for many, many eons. See, mushrooms were used before there was even alcohol.
You too are going to want to explore this mushroom further. And I will explain what the science says from 12,000 people who ate this mushroom. Keep watching if you know anybody who has any sort of pain, who has sleep issues, or addictions of any kind. The magic of Amanita muscaria. I've done a lot with this mushroom over the years. This is me from one of my multiple attempts to explore this mushroom. We found one. Here's another.
And these are all under fair use. All clips are used for fair use commentary, criticism, and educational purposes. See Hoseinzada versus Klein, 276 F supplement 3D 34, and equals 3 LLC versus Junkin Media Inc. 139F.
Early stages.
And this is me in 2007 pretending to take a bite out of this mushroom, which, by the way, I do not recommend. For the first 15 years I knew this mushroom, I thought the best experience to have with it was just a full hallucinogenic trip. Of course, I was too cautious to try that, so I instead researched it a ton. I was fascinated by its historic use in the reindeer cultures of the far north, its potential ties to Christmas, and its unique chemistry. And of course, my biology friends and I always warned people you need to be careful with it.
Definitely not a mushroom that you want to pick and eat because it is poisonous.
And then I stumbled upon it in Scandinavia.
Oh, wow. See, that one has a little bit of the yellowy orange.
It was a huge patch in Sweden.
Textbook perfect Amanita muscaria.
And then I did a deep dive, 2 years of deep study with the experts in the field, and found that it wasn't as dangerous as I previously thought.
There's this one, which is highly medicinal.
That's Amanita Dreamer. It's a pseudonym she uses. She's one of the people paving the way forward in this mushroom revolution and trying to encourage people to give it a second chance. She was full of anxiety, having a hard time dealing with the world, and this mushroom changed the game for her.
And it saved my life. Pretty much got to a point where I just didn't want to be alive anymore. Found the mushroom, did my research on it. There was a lot of bad information on the internet, and I took a chance and took it anyway. And it turned out to be exactly what I needed. Get off the benzos and to manage my panic and anxiety.
I've told her story before, but it always blows me away how the fly agaric helped her. In fact, if you're ever going to experiment with this mushroom and want to do a full ceremony, she's the person to go to.
There he is. The king is here. King Aiden is in the building. What up, Aiden? Let's go, Queen.
And greetings, Dino. How you doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Good
Learning
to have
all kinds
you.
of new stuff.
Yeah? What, you have any experience with mushrooms at all?
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
Good deal. Good deal. So this is going to be an interesting stream for you then. I hope you are not going to belay us with any input from firsthand experiences for sure.
You don't want that? Oh, okay.
No,
well,
I don't want you to
maybe I'll-
belay us. I don't want you. I want you to do it. I don't want you to
Oh.
slack off.
Yeah, the fly agaric was an interesting. There was a period of time I did a lot of experiments with it because it grows quite naturally up in this area. So
Yeah,
I played around with it.
it's one of those that grows, quite a ways up north. And this is, as the video shows, where they get the idea of Santa Claus and stuff in the North regions. It's not what
Right.
the Christian society has only adopted a story to placate the kids and all the magic, so.
Yeah, there's magic, all right.
For the lowdown.
I've done ceremonies with so many people now at high doses.
However, the one thing that bothered me is that it just seemed to be a lot of anecdotal evidence. She was a great case in point, but there was not a ton of science. That is, until I met Baba Masha. This is the Russian scientist who did the first big survey study of Amanita. Baba Masha, as she goes by, is her pseudonym. It's not her real name. And she did that because the Russian government has really made it clear they want to shut down everything that she has to say about this mushroom and psychedelics. They've banned her channel in Russia multiple times. That, of course, is why she feels the need to cover her identity using these glasses and the wig, just for her own safety. And that's why I felt very lucky to hear these words directly from her.
Then I had bad condition with my back. I'm a doctor. I know what to use. I tried everything. And then they told me if I will make a tincture from raw Amanita muscaria, it will help me. I'm like, nah. But I didn't have a choice. I decided I'm going to try. I got about 12 mushrooms. And since then, I go to gym. I walk like crazy.
And this is a gal that's familiar with the medical society herself, as some kind of specialist or practitioner or something. And so she went through all of the means that she could in her position, and then she went to nature. So again, one of those things I'm trying to urge people to get back to your nature, a more agrarian lifestyle where we can use the actual herbs that were given us through this Christian dominion of their God.
For 20 months, and my
Earth is actually the mother. So, you put the two together, and you should go to your mother first and then your father if your mother doesn't provide. But mother provides everything. So father kind of steps back and just lets you have your free will as long as you can console mother. That's that replenishing part.
back just said, good.
She talked with me for a couple of hours and detailed all of the research that she did, which ended up in her book. But first, let me summarize what it is exactly that she did so you understand why the results she was finding are so interesting to me. Her Baba Masha channel in Russia was extremely popular, bringing in millions of views in the Russian-speaking world. Through this popularity, she started live streams and did surveys so they could talk about what they were doing with different psychedelics and how to be safe. In that process, some people mentioned they were microdosing with Amanita muscaria, something she herself.
And this is where I want to point out again, she talked about the internet and it not being good research or good material. It was fake data and stuff, and that's why she herself went to the mushrooms. This is the animated dreamer gal that we're going to look at here later, and she went to microdosing and checking out mushrooms herself holistically, evidently because she just found that more natural.
Said she was very skeptical of.
My reaction was furious because I'm a doctor and I'm a mushroom hunter, and people start writing me, we're taking Amanita for several years. I'm like, you're crazy. You're going to kill your liver. You're going to kill your brain.
But she thought she'd study it with this newfound popularity, and through this format, she had in the end 12,000 people filling out a survey as to how they used Amanita muscaria. What were they taking it for? Did it help? Did it hurt? How much? And this is what it seemed to be helpful for. And frankly, that's a ton of things. But I'm going to pick 3 things that seem to be the real winners. The first was sleep. In fact, when asked about sleep, 73% of people said that it helped tremendously, which is huge. The next is for addiction. This chart right here showed high numbers for getting off very heavy drugs.
Microdosing is a great antidote. Any kind of addiction, alcohol addiction, opioid addiction, designer drugs, amphetamine, cocaine, between 70 and 86%.
In this case, I had to probe a little bit further and wonder about the placebo effect. Is that really what it was?
There is no placebo for alcoholics. I have testimonies of people who are dying from alcoholism. We were taking alcohol in severe dosages for decades. And after few courses, 3, 6 months, 1 year, I have so many testimonies. I know it's not a placebo, you know.
Finally, it seems to be an incredible painkiller when it's made into a tincture and rubbed on.
Interesting, huh? See, they cover a variety of different things, kind of like the dandelion, you know. And remember, Dino, just say anything, anytime you need me to pause, let me know.
Onto the skin.
Neuropathic pain. Doesn't matter when it happens. You just put it all over your body. Half an hour, you're so happy. It doesn't cure the condition. It doesn't eliminate the cause, but it takes the pain away. It's not addictive like opioids, and you have energy. You're happy. It takes your bad mood, negative things.
Not addictive like opioids.
So did she say she just put it on her body? She only put it on the outside?
Yeah, she used a tincture and put it on the outside. And this is one of those things I explain to people, because you don't technically need to drink water. Through your fruits and vegetables, you can internally ingest the water that's in those. And by soaking in water, you can absorb water through your skin. So when you use tinctures, including oils, your skin will absorb it. Just a different way of consuming it.
Right. I did a lot of experiments with, I was experimenting with, oh, good Lord, I'm going to forget it now. Dang it. There's another substance you can mix stuff with that will allow it to get into your system much faster. And I know it'll come to me. I'm just blanking right now. But I was doing that with capsaicin.
Yeah, we can't talk about too many of the brand names, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, it's
right. It was a
it's an
it's not a brand
actifier.
name. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Anyway, yeah, the point is I was trying to get capsaicin, which is from the hot pepper, into my system,
right,
much quicker. So there were things I was trying in that regard. And anyway,
yeah, absolutely, and that's one of those things that people need to learn about in relations to the nature of these things. We have various methods that we already know of, where there's certain processes of combining and separating, such as wine. When you combine the mash and yeast and sugar and acid and everything to make your wine, then you turn around and you add bentonite clay to separate everything out and pull out the fines, what they call the fines, and real fine particles. Then you can siphon off the top of the wine, and you have a nice clear wine that you can put into a bottle and let settle for a year. So there's different ways, and that's why I say with the tincture, those are things that you need to take into consideration, the different various uses.
All of what she was telling me is fascinating, and my first thought is, well, this is probably an example where we'll take a compound out of nature, we will patent it, we will make money off of it, and then it'll be something in the pharmaceutical industry. But the problem seems to be that big business is not going to be able to make any money off of this.
You cannot put it in a pill and start selling it because it doesn't work.
Which their only small problem
because it doesn't work.
with that is that some of the studies that need to happen to show the effectiveness of it aren't going to happen because nobody's going to put in the investment into it. So here we are in a very interesting situation with this mushroom that grows symbiotically with trees.
So it's literally up to the people that want to do it themselves, right? It's literally almost like a private education of private natural remedy situations and for certain health conditions.
Is hard to farm and can't really be synthesized very easily. At this point, you might be thinking, hey, I might want to try this mushroom myself. Or maybe there's a few of you out there who are still pretty skeptical. I know I was. If that's the case, let me fill you in on a little bit more of the science, starting with the chemistry. There are two main active compounds in this mushroom, ibotenic acid and muscimol. Ibotenic acid, it's a bit of an upper. At high doses, it can cause nausea and even seizures. However, it is converted in the body to muscimol, and it can be converted ahead of time. Muscimol is a GABA agonist. It has more calming effects. This company, right?
It can be converted ahead of time. So through a certain processes, you can convert it ahead of time, and then it's actually edible.
here, Psych recently spent millions on clinical studies to prove that muscimol, if isolated in the way that they do, is safe in small doses. This bottle now represents the first product on the market to get the FDA approval stamp. They're marketing it as a sleep aid. And if you remember, Baba Masha noted that her studies showed it's helpful for sleep. But you should know that if you want to get the full benefits of this mushroom, you should probably go out into the woods and pick it yourself.
People want to.
This is not medical advice. This is just information we find on the internet that might be fake. So again, to each their own. Make sure you know what you're doing first.
Do it. They have to do it on their own and not buy it on internet.
And I know that's counterintuitive to most people, but let me just walk you through how it would work. First, go into the woods in season, find it, pick it. Then you dry it. Then you're going to make a tea out of it. Then you can either take small amounts of that liquid tea or turn that liquid into small gummies, and then you can take those daily as a microdose. I say all this because you can't trust the source of dried mushrooms that you get in the mail.
The worst thing you can do, some chemical dumpsters near the.
Yes, you cannot trust the sources of mushrooms you get in the mail. I guarantee you that is never the way I would go. I would have to have someone that personally grew them that I know, or do it myself. And you can get packets to do this.
Road, it sucks everything.
It's really hard to know where people are getting their mushrooms from.
And the amount of Amanita muscaria grown in Chernobyl is enormous. Imagine people pick it up and sell it on the internet.
Also, just as a warning here, it's not recommended to just go into the woods and start taking bites out of this mushroom raw. One bite could be too much, and that's the biggest risk in this case. The whole point is to make a large.
And they'll discuss that in the in another video about you can't tell. One mushroom might have 10 times the amount of toxicity as another right next to it.
Larger batch, find your microdose. Also, we're not talking about macrodoses. It's not that a macrodose or a hero's journey doesn't give you some insight. Amanita Dreamer definitely does ceremonies with them, and Baba Masha says that they potentially give you some insight as well.
Amanita brings you there, but I always give description like when you take, let's say, magic mushroom, it's like to drive into Los Angeles from Malibu on nice Mercedes, and when you take Amanita, you go to Los Angeles underground, and you have to chew the ground with your teeth. The result is the same, but the price for it is very different.
If you are a little overwhelmed by everything you need to know at this point, but you still want to explore this mushroom, I do want to point you in the right direction. Now, clearly, I'm not saying go out and start eating Amanita, but I do think you should start exploring this mushroom yourself. And this is how you would start. First, pick up Baba Masha's book. There's a few chapters right here at the beginning. It's only about this much of the book. One of the best overviews of Amanita that I've seen so far, and I've done a lot of research on this. The whole back half of the book, which is about this much of the book, talks about all of the individual studies. You don't have to read every individual one, but it literally is giving you the details of what everyone said through her survey study. It's not a double-blind placebo study, but it's the first step. The second thing you should do, watch the full interview I did with Baba Masha. She walks you through the process of going and getting your own, some of the things you have to be careful about, and it's nice to hear it from her. And I would recommend at least take that hour to watch it a little bit more. Third, go to Amanita Dreamer and learn from her. She spends all of her time detailing things that you need to know about how to prepare Amanita, things to be careful of if you want to do a full ceremony, that kind of thing. She's a great resource. Last thing, do not use Amanita if you have any of these contraindications. Don't use it if you're pregnant. Baba Masha actually took it to some of her guinea pigs and tested Amanita if you have any of these contraindications. Don't use it if you're pregnant. Baba Masha actually took it to some of her guinea pigs and tested it out on the pregnant females, and she found it did cause some problems with those pregnant females. Don't use it if you have bipolar or schizophrenia. Probably a good recommendation. 3, Baba Masha found that it seemed to pass kidney stones. So if you have a predisposition to kidney stones, you might want to be careful using Amanita muscaria. After reviewing those things and making sure you are in the clear, now maybe with the help of some other experienced mushroom hunters, you can start exploring this mushroom. In fact, I tried this mushroom, measuring out the Amanita caps. And I will say that it is the one mushroom that changed my mind at the very beginning of using natural compounds from the wild. And the reason for that is that it was an interesting process to go out into the field, pick my own, cut it, dry it, make a tea from it, and then figure out what is my microdose. And what that did is it allowed me to start listening to my body, trying to figure out, okay, where's that threshold for me? Let me write down, how am I feeling? Is this something that feels like it's good for me or not good for me? And through that process, I actually, in the end, decided that I'm good. I got what I needed out of Amanita muscaria. I generally don't have any anxiety, any depression, no sleep problems. I'm very physically fit. And at this moment, I don't need Amanita anymore. And that is the state you're probably trying to get to. And in fact, why would you use Amanita muscaria if you're already very good? It's probably only used if you do have some of the main things, which are sleep issues, pain issues, and potentially trying to get over some sort of addiction issues. All of those, though, would be potential uses where you would want to try this. So
My apologies. My mic was muted as well. So what do you got, Dino? When you used them, did you make a tincture, or how did you use them? Did you microdose, whatever?
The recipe I had found suggested baking them for a while, and while baking them, it suggested taking the liquid that came out and sort of basting the mushroom with it. So I did that, and then I believe I ate them, and they were really hard to get down. What little I took, but I don't remember much of an experience, you know. So I don't know that I have anything beneficial to say in that regard, other than it didn't kill me, you know.
And so was it just a short-term one-time use, or how long did you do that? How often, whatnot?
Yeah, I
Because
only tried it. Honestly, I only tried it one time because I didn't care for the flavor, and I couldn't find any other information on it to find out if I had done something right or if I needed to do it differently or whatever. You know, the whole idea of drying it out and then making a tea doesn't necessarily make sense with me, because you can just make a tea right away, and
right, and
you're just going to add water to take the water out of. It's sort of a non-needed step.
right. That's one of the distinctions I was going to make, is that when it's in preparation, the thing is to break down, and this is that prepare for the muscalone or whatever it's called, to prepare that before you ingest it, and that takes a heat element. So what you do is you bring it up in heat, and that's what does the conversion. So this next one, it says,
Right. So that's why I tried that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Gotta say, I prefer the Q.B.N.Ds, you know, magic mushrooms to anything else. So I've done more of that than the Amanitas.
Yep. Yeah, and that's another thing. There's the Amanitas are just the most popular ones around the world. There are many other types of what they call magic mushrooms.
this growing organism is considered the world's oldest intoxicant.
Yeah, right there's the Amanita.
It predates alcohol by 10,000 years, yet not many use it anymore. The big question is, why not? Today, Jonas and I are on hunt for Amanita muscaria, which is arguably the most famous mushroom in the world. I think everybody should know a lot about it, and if you don't, well, stay tuned, because by the end of this, you will. The fly agaric. If you're unfamiliar, well, the Smurfs live in one, and it is the famous Mario Brothers mushroom that helps Mario grow and get more powerful. And this is more than just a fairy tale. It is mushroom season in Sweden.
And this is like a short wall into the troll forest. It's like dark and dense.
Now, I saw my first one 20 years ago in Alaska, and the owner of the hostel I was staying in told me a story about it. It went something like this. It's the powerful psychotropic mushroom of the reindeer herders from Siberia in Northern Europe. You see, the reindeer can't get enough, and by feeding it to them, they dance and jump about as if they're flying. The cultures would pick mushrooms in the fall, dry them in the spruce trees, and then the shaman of the tribe would distribute them as presents over the winter solstice in December. From there, they'd all partake in the mushroom and laugh and be joyful, rest and be merry. And if the snow was heavy, well, you couldn't go through the door, so they'd come in through the roof. I had never heard any of this, but I could see how people could make the connection between this mushroom and the legends of Santa Claus and the flying reindeer. But it didn't stop there. He said the mushroom had multiple compounds in them, and the body would convert the bad chemicals to the good. And here's the weird part you don't hear in holiday stories. Apparently, you can collect the pee of both reindeer and people who had eaten the mushroom to, how do we say this, recycle the chemicals. Ew. That led me to research it a lot. I actually studied it in grad school when I was in Hawaii as well, doing an ethnobotany program. And it's because it has these unique chemicals within its tissues. And I'll get to all that in a sec. First, let's go find the mushroom. And of course, there's not just amanitas. We're finding all sorts of other mushrooms in this forest.
One of these kind of unwritten rules that you don't tell people where they are, and you don't even ask people where they are because you know they're not going to answer you.
I should note here that maybe the best thing about learning about the fly agaric 20 years ago was that it instilled a deep interest in learning about fungi. Well, that's a very cool one. This is the inky cap. Drink alcohol, they're poisonous. Finding edibles.
My dad used to love picking these.
And do mushroom time lapses.
Here we go. Turn on. Every two.
Did you hear that? Eating that one, and I imagine it's not just that single mushroom, but eating certain ones with alcohol makes them poisonous. They're deadly.
Minutes.
So it's very important to stay off medications, alcohol, and stuff while you're doing your testing and microdosing. You shouldn't be mixing this stuff with anything else. Like it said, it's got unique chemical structures.
Now, I want to note that this mushroom is mycorrhizal, which means that it forms a relationship with the roots of the trees around us. Now, not every tree forms mycorrhizal associations with fungi. Spruce does, and they're also very specific sometimes which mushrooms are which. You got to look around and see which trees you're in. This beautiful spruce forest is a great place to find these. You can also find them in birch and in pine. So it's kind of cool because the mushroom is helping the plant get nutrients, and in exchange, the tree, through its roots, is giving sugars to this beautiful mushroom. Of course, most of the mushroom is underground. It's a mycelial mat, and then these little things are just the fruiting body. These are like the fruits. You don't see them all the time, but the mushroom mass is all underground all the time. Even though this mushroom is highly psychotropic and actually amazingly safe if prepared right, the real danger is mistaking it for something else. Fortunately, this is not a hard mushroom to identify. Okay, let's talk identification. This is an amanita. Other amanitas include some very deadly and toxic varieties like the destroying angel and the death cap. In other words, you need to know at the very basics how to identify an amanita. So if you look at this one, you can see it has this ring around. It's like a little skirt around the stalk, or stipe as it's called. That is where the cap used to be connected. And then other amanitas will also have a bulbous base, so they have a vulva around the bottom. Now, and that's why when you identify them, sometimes you'll want to dig it down a little bit deeper and cut it out because you don't want to mistake it for anything else. Now, on this particular one, you have a red cap. That's very distinguishable, but sometimes I've seen them yellow or yellow-orange. And then you have these little white flecks on the top. And
yeah, and I found a bunch when I was out in New Hampshire, hiking around out in the Appalachians. I found a bunch of them, but they were all yellow. So again, when it comes to the mycelium, they have different structures according to the nutrients of the ground that they're in and different ecological systems. So the ones in the Appalachians were different than maybe the ones up in Alaska. Slightly different, but same component chemicals.
Those are remnants of when it used to be a little tiny growing mushroom, like a little egg-like thing. And then as it grew, that container just separated and you remained with that. In fact, we saw some over there, and you can very easily see how it started and why these flecks look like they do now. Now, the chemistry. If you know a bit about mushrooms, you may know that some amanitas are very dangerous. The biggest danger comes from amatoxins. These mushrooms, along with a few others, contain the compounds that are responsible for 95% of mushroom deaths. Amatoxins, you see, cause acute liver and renal failure. In other words, we stay away from any mushroom that has these in it. However, Amanita muscaria does not contain amatoxins. Instead, it contains isoxazole toxins that can cause alterations to mental status, but no liver or renal injury. Thank goodness. Now here's what's interesting. The two main compounds are ibotenic acid and muscimol. Look how similar they are. Some people consider ibotenic acid to be the bad compound because it's the one responsible for nausea, vomiting, and a really uncomfortable experience. Muscimol is often considered the good one, and that might be oversimplifying it. But given that ibotenic acid can cause some sickness, we'll go with it for now. Through a process called decarboxylation, you can convert ibotenic acid to muscimol. You can first
what'd they say? Decarboxylation. So it's almost sounds like oxidation, but it's oxalation. Decarboxylation. Interesting. That's the process that's doing the conversion, and that's the heating element I was telling you about. You heat it up and it oxidizes it.
And you can convert ibotenic acid to muscimol. You can first dry it between 165 and 195 degrees Fahrenheit to convert about 30%. Adding an acid like lemon juice converts more, and fermenting it in milk.
And so that would be just, oops, we lost Dino. That would be, greetings, everybody. That would be the thing Dino was talking about earlier, that extra step of drying it out of temperatures between 165 to 195. If you're just going to turn around, put it in a pot to boil it and make a tincture, you can just do that straight from the start. Because your water is going to boil at what, 212? So that's going to do the decarboxylation. Canadian raid. We got a bunch of Canadians coming. So let's check it out.
Yogurt that has bacteria could convert over 90%. So interestingly, the name fly agaric comes from the fact that people reportedly added it to milk for what everybody thought was to kill flies. My suspicion is that they were actually trying to convert ibotenic acid to muscimol so they could ingest these mushrooms, and the aggregation of flies was just a byproduct. Oh. Adding an acid like lemon juice converts more, and fermenting it in milk and yogurt that has bacteria could convert over 90%. So
interesting. So you can add acid to convert it even more, and then the dairy product, the fermentation process. Interesting stuff, huh? We were just talking about fermenting wine in putting elements together and then separating them apart. The decarboxylation here is what's separating them. So through these different processes, you can get up to 90%. Interesting.
Interestingly, the name fly agaric comes from the fact that people reportedly added it to milk for what everybody thought was to kill flies. My suspicion is that they were actually trying to convert ibotenic acid to muscimol so they could ingest these mushrooms, and the aggregation of flies was just a byproduct.
Oh, wow. See, that one has a little bit of the yellowy orange on the cap.
You got a young one. One that just came up over there.
At this point in the video, you might be wondering, what does this mushroom do? To understand that, I talked to Amanita Dreamer, an expert on this topic. In doing so, I realized this needs an entire video, which I'm exploring in the next episode. But the short is that in small amounts, it acts a bit as a sedative and can be very relaxing and calming. Yet, please note, I am not encouraging any experimentation. But this tidbit was fascinating.
I think it's the limitless drug. And if you take it in the
Look how big that one was. You look at the thumbnail of the video, you'll see I had one out there in New Hampshire that's damn near almost that same size. So they can get large. So it's, again, the toxicity level is always different as well. So it doesn't, just because it's bigger doesn't mean it's more potent. And just because it's smaller doesn't mean it's less potent.
Any experimentation. But this tidbit was fascinating.
I think it's the limitless drug. And if you take it in the right doses, you will see for yourself that it is. I've been on it. I know what it does.
Because my mission with this channel is to help rekindle an appreciation for things our ancestors once knew, this statement by Amanita Dreamer really seems to point to why we don't use it much these days.
Through attrition and generation after generation, the knowledge got lost. And now there's this resurgence of mushroom knowledge and trying to learn again not to fear mushroom medicine. You just prepare it properly and it can be the best medicine that the world needs.
Amanitas are here.
So as I lay in this Scandinavian forest looking face to face with the fly agaric, I think I finally figured out why it isn't used much anymore. It's not because it's actually deadly, and it isn't because it has no useful compounds. It actually does. Instead, it seems that our fear of other mushrooms and a general lack of societal knowledge about what you can and can't eat has led us to be.
Yeah, you tell me says he's fermenting something, but we don't care about piss. All right. Hey, the link's down there if anybody wants to come on up. Somewhere in time, can't drink gas station tea. Machines usually have mold built up from fermented tea. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful with those teas because they are, as well as coffee. If you let them sit, they will ferment. You will actually see them grow mold and stuff. That's evidence of fermentation. And yes, we're discussing the edibility in regards to preparing any kind of magic mushroom. Even though they can be toxic, you can still put them through a process to decarboxylate them. That's what she said. I'm in Littleton, New Hampshire. They are everywhere around here. Yep. I was up by White Mountain, New Hampshire. and great area up there. I found all kinds of different varieties of mushrooms that I'll show here after a little bit. Absolutely interesting. And remember, the link's down there if anybody wants to come up and join the panel, ask your questions, whatever. Be sure to hit those buttons, like, share, and subscribe to hit the algorithms. And of course, there's a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love.
Overly cautious. Look how cool this is. Fortunately, we are in the resurgence. And if you care about this, you can also be very happy that we are rediscovering and hopefully taking advantage of, in a healthy way, the medicine that comes from this, the Mario Brothers mushroom, known to us now as Amanita muscaria. Before I end this episode, I want to throw to what I'm doing next week, which is I'm here with Amanita Dreamer. We have dried amanitas, and we're learning all about the misconceptions of this mushroom. So stay tuned for that. I hope that you're learning through this series things that you can better appreciate in the great outdoors. We wrote a book recently called Mother Nature is Not Trying to Kill You, which has this exact same theme. The fly agaric is in the book. You can actually pick it up if you go support us on Patreon for cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. That's one of the perks that we have over there. I'm also doing postcards. The Amanita mushroom is one of the ones that I'm doing for the next series. So that might be something to get before Christmas. Also, that book is a fantastic thing for kids. That's kind of why we wrote it. Until next time, stay safe.
Yes, yes. That's why they write things, is so people can learn. So check that out. We're going to show you his link when we get done here. But this next one is the science of microdosing, tested for 28 days. This is why I asked Dino earlier if what his actual experience was and if he did it over a prolonged period of time. Shadow Band says, mushrooms have been growing on the insides of my library windows. Interesting. Love it. They'll grow in a lot of places. They get as big as dinner plates in the right soil. My customer had those growing in their yards, from you tell me, and they weren't very big. Yeah, like I said, they come in all different kinds of sizes and stuff. And it's important, like I said, if we're going to get back to our nature, this is one of the most important aspects, is learning about this kind of stuff so we can make those tinctures. And this is going above and beyond things like dandelions and all kinds of other herbs and native plants and stuff that we already know about. It's a matter of opening and broadening your medicine cabinet to the real world.
This video is brought to you by OneRail. Microdosing is the new trend, but where does it fit into the mushroom revolution? Well, for context, mushrooms have not only been used for food,
I love mushrooms, are so good,
but have been used for their psychoactive properties for thousands of years. This mushroom is the fly agaric. It's considered the oldest intoxicant in the world and famously used by shamanic tribes of the far north. And while it's hard to tell given the variability of caps, not even that much, prepared properly, could send you on a journey. In other
So old, like I said earlier, that this was one of the things mankind was using long before alcohol.
words, read that is not a beginner mushroom. This mushroom is a psilocybin-containing mushroom. This is a psilocybe mushroom, otherwise known as a magic mushroom. It was known to be used in indigenous ceremonies in Mexico and likely all over the world. About this much of this mushroom is considered a heroic dose. That's 5 grams. That will essentially take you to a different reality for a few hours. Researchers at Johns Hopkins used an equivalent dose of the synthesized active ingredient in these mushrooms, psilocybin, and found that there.
And so this is a different kind of magic mushroom that they're using in a dry form and not using it as tincture, but actually to get to that psychedelic range. And like you said, there's 5 grams. So, you know, think about this stuff and remember, if you're going to be microdosing, pay attention to these kind of things from people with experience, firsthand experience.
There was a decrease in depression and anxiety after a single session of psilocybin.
That well-controlled study showed large, rapid, and enduring decreases in depression and anxiety after a single session with psilocybin.
Studies like those and others across the world are highlighting a new use for psilocybin. But what if instead of taking a high dose of these mushrooms, which could require some assistance, instead you took a very small dose? So that is microdosing. I should note this video is about microdosing psilocybin-containing mushrooms. I will be talking about microdosing Amanita in a future video, which will be found right here when it's ready. I'll also note that like everything I talk about here on Stone Age Man, I did my own test. Day 1, Day 5, 25. And I had friends do the same. I want to make sure that the effects we see seem to line up with the results that is shown in the research. But first, let me...
So it was a group of people, and that, again, 2 heads are better than 1. So, you know, the group of people thing, you have people that can, particularly in a group, that can sit back and not, you know, like be the designated driver and not partake and make sure that people don't go overboard, or if they do, they can take notes and call the right appropriate people, things like that.
Summarize what we know so far. Microdosing was first coined by this guy, Dr. James Fadiman, now known as the father of microdosing. Microdosing is about 5 to 10% of a regular dose taken intermittently for the intent of improving your life. Often people will take it 2 to 4 times a week for a few weeks to several months. Because of regulations and legality, you can't necessarily bring people into the lab and give them a microdose. It's also
Not a
long,
problem,
not very
Dean.
strong effect. So the data he acquired was from a survey study, essentially asking people to self-report what they were using it for, what they found benefits as, and then he found trends in what was being reported. And here is what he found.
The quick list: anxiety, general, social, academic, party anxiety, Asperger's syndrome, depression, ice pick headaches, personal insights that are therapeutic, work-related insights, learning. A lot of people have used it for learning, and we have cases of learning languages more easily, advanced math more easily. That was actually from a Harvard group. More focused attention in class, and in many cases improved grades. Menstrual periods.
More attention paid in class. Interesting there, huh?
Elimination of PMS symptoms, both physical and emotional. They don't eliminate all migraines, but it goes down 80 to 90% for the people it helped. For trauma, people.
Migraines down 80 to 90%. Interesting. Again, I'm not putting this out as medical advice or anything. Remember the
report decreased triggering.
To watch what's scrolling at the bottom of the screen as far as educational criticism and commentary.
Less procrastination, better sex, or more libido. We're not sure whether it's more libido, whether it's more energy, or more closeness, better communication, etc. But people basically improve sexual relationships. Work in general, improved work, amount of work, discrimination, and workflow.
Whoa, do we really need to improve sexual relationships at this point? Let's slow down here first. Let's make sure they're natural sexual relationships, guys, gals.
Quality, etc. Coming off of psychiatric medications that were deemed not helpful.
And of course, the big question is, how can it have all of these positive effects? Well, they came up with a few ideas. First, it could be a placebo, which doesn't mean it's not nothing. It's really a way of stating that the body has a natural ability to heal if incentivized properly. Another option is it could be systemic, much like, say, a vitamin. Now, you don't just take a vitamin and on the first day you notice a difference, like vitamin C or iron, for instance. But if taken over time, it helps the whole body function better. They also hypothesized that maybe it's having something to do with the mitochondria, which are the fuel source of your entire system, and they degrade over time. Maybe that has something to do with it. And a final explanation may have to do somehow with neuroplasticity, in other words, increasing the brain's ability to adapt and change to new situations. That seems to be an interesting explanation, given that we know higher doses definitely increase neuroplasticity. Regardless of how
higher doses definitely increase neuroplasticity. Interesting. So you would think, yes, the smaller doses over a long period of time would do the same thing, just in a longer game time.
it works, though, people are using it to treat all of those ailments. And then in addition, there are unintended improvements that they found. What I mean by that is that afterwards, people reported eating healthier, working out more, and then also decreased drug uses of all sorts of different things. Not only just the hard things that you think about as bad, like opiates and maybe tobacco, but also alcohol, caffeine. That, to me, is really, really interesting. Where we're at the moment is we've got this.
Well, yeah, because a lot of your addictive drugs that we're facing today have inhibitors that block your neural connections and rewire them somehow for a short period of time or cause short circuiting, increase in anger or emotion or something like that. And this is actually working the opposite direction to make better connectivity. So, and that's to do with that bioelectric growing, the neuroplasticity. So let's take a look again.
Preliminary data that the science is telling us seems to be effective for, and then we're trying to allow people to use it properly in their lives. And that's where microdosing coaches come in, or health and wellness coaches. They're essentially working with each individual person and trying to make sure their dose is not too low or too high, much like how a guide would help you on a large dose. And I got one on the phone recently and asked him what his thoughts were on the whole process.
When you're experiencing the benefits with really like minimal to no effects, that's kind of what the sweet spot where microdosing is. Think about like the most amazing day you've had. It's just a normal average day where you just felt damn good. And that's what microdosing helps you to do more often. It helps you to feel like yourself, your best version of yourself, because you're able to be more present with your day. The more present you are, the happier you are, because you can't experience happiness in the past or the future. It's only something that you experience here and now.
I should note, we are trying to do more research on, is this effective or is it not? One of the more recent studies seemed to indicate that there was no effect of microdosing. And the one problem with that study is that they used mostly healthy individuals to determine if microdosing was even effective. Dr. Fadiman explained the problem with that in this online clip.
If we really look at it, the problem is that on the scale, if you go from 8 to 6, that's a huge jump, but you can't go from, if you go from 3 to 1, that's half as much. We need to have a sample which has sufficient affective or depressive symptoms before we can actually measure their effects.
In other words, if you don't already have a problem, you're not going to see a lot of improvement. And that could be.
So with the high dose earlier, they know it affects and increases the neuroplasticity, but in the lower doses, they can't really measure it. but over a longer period of time, it seems like it does.
Big problem that we see in the literature,
which would seem reasonable, of course,
and something that we have to address moving forward. I also took a trip to see Irene Dubin, who is a psychedelic psychotherapist who uses mushrooms in her work to help people heal, to ask her what her clients report on microdosing.
My clients reported to me as well that the psilocybin helped them feeling better, just mood-wise, or with a chronic pain. Again, it might be anti-inflammatory factors in psilocybin. The proper
Frequency Forge says the mushroom toxicity leads to pantherine syndrome. However, some mushrooms lead to instant death and is often irreversible. Feel free to come up and talk to us about pantherine syndrome, and of course, I'll look it up. In the meantime, link is down there, guys. Feel free to jump on board. And remember, there's some buttons down there you can hit to help the algorithm.
microdose doesn't going to give you any sense in the body. It has to be sub-perceptional. But over time, 1 or 2 weeks later, you may start feeling better.
Of course, Strad, who also runs the retreat, seems to indicate that maybe a macrodose really is the way to go.
I recommend the macrodose. The microdose might numb it down for that day. And the beauty of psilocybin and a macrodose is to really get down and dig out that root, like what's rooting around in there. Let's dig it up, get a look at it, and let's see how we can fix it.
I tend to agree with Strad, but I know that for a lot of people.
So we got guys that do these kind of mushrooms and stuff, and they're saying macrodose is the way to go. Interesting. Whereas the medical society for a long time has been telling us it's toxic and you'll die, nothing else. So again, a lot of false information out, and it's time to start really doing your own firsthand research. Again, this is not for beginners. The beginner stage is doing your research. Do not get into this dosing stuff until you've done plenty.
Setting aside the time to do a full journey is difficult. It's scary. But if you just had a small amount in powdered form and you could take in the morning and see how your body reacted to it, that would be easier for some people. So what did I find?
Seems like a silly thing, but it's a huge thing. Found ways to organize that I haven't been able to for like over a year.
I found it on days that I microdosed, I did feel better. I thought everything looked prettier, especially outside. It allowed me to do medial tasks a lot easier. So say I was out weeding in the yard, things that would drive me crazy before because it just was time consuming. Basically anything that I do outside, which is a little bit monotonous, was quite enjoyable. And so there is a time and place for that. And I have a lot of those things I have to put into my life. I generally have it's not even an anxiety. It's just like an impatience. I'm trying to get all of these things done. I will say the one downside that I found was that on days that I microdosed, especially if I took just a little bit too much, then I started to feel something. So it wasn't like maybe nothing. Maybe that's where I need a microdose coach. But I did find that I do a lot of complex problem solving, and I could tell that there was a slight decrease in my cognitive ability. Not much. Much like if you had half a glass of alcohol, you wouldn't say that it decreased your ability to have social interactions. In fact, it would actually increase your ability to have social interactions. But you definitely would be a little bit wary of, are you going to get behind a wheel? Are you going to do anything that could require all of your brain power? Because even if you don't notice, you know that it's slightly decreased. Now, I noticed it. In the end, it did help me.
Absolutely. And that's why I say, if you're going to be doing this stuff and getting into it, you really need to make sure that you're doing it probably in a group of people with one that's going to be a quote designated driver, somebody that's going to be able to oversee things and help in case of certain situations that might arise to cause little problems. So
decrease negative chatter in my head. So that's, I think, why it helps different people differently. I don't think I need it on a long-term basis or even short-term anymore. I got what I needed out of it and I can go from there. So you'll have to decide for yourself what your opinions are. If you have experience microdosing, leave your comments down below. If you're trying to figure out how am I going to get into this, stay tuned till the very end because I have the best resources. You're not going to find them in the comments generally because bots, you never can trust them. But before I give you those resources, let me introduce today's sponsor, Wondrium, a premier education.
Yeah, I think the rest of it's on his sponsor. And like I said, we'll show you his channel. And this is Stone Age Man. So mushrooms isn't the only thing that he does. He's, like I said, talking about getting back to the agrarian lifestyle. And the principle here is, the principle here is to get back to nature. The mystical fungus that changed the world. Foxglove is even cooler than you know. The opium poppy, a beautiful and dangerous plant. So he's not just talking about mushrooms and that. He's also talking about other things. What is it? Lion's mane, these 9 myths about mushrooms. 2,000 mosquitoes feed on my arm. Deer turns to dust before my eyes. Epic decomposition. The science of the red wolf. Will they survive their own apocalypse? Death adder is in Australia. So he's, around the world, all kinds of great information. Eating the tree of life. Why is it also called the miracle tree? It's called the moringa. So go check him out. Stone Age Man. Stone Age Man. And remember, folks, the link's down there if you want to come up and talk. I enjoyed it last September for 3 weeks visiting home. My daughter, a physical therapist, had them all up on natural hearing, massage, etc. Yeah, we really need to get back to nature. I appreciate everybody with their comments like that. I think that's showing a unity in ideology and will to do so. So the only thing left is the education so we can start doing it. Problem is that there will have to be some purpose behind the intention. Seeking, yes. And that the seeking is going back to nature, seeking what nature really offers us by going through our firsthand observances like we're instructed. I think everybody has a set of instincts and intuition that has been abated by this society, that with this modern, very modern society. Frequencies Forge says, Paul Stamets on YouTube, also a great author and videographer. His stuff is only mushrooms. Don't just take it, screw up your mind because you can. No, it's not a matter of screwing up your mind. It's a matter of learning on a mass scale, groups of people doing this so we can finally get back to our nature, because this is one of those things men have been using through the eons. So the next one I got is how to detoxify and cook Amanita muscaria. So pay attention, folks.
To cook and detoxify Amanita muscaria. So first, as a disclaimer, I have to say, if you can't separate Amanita muscaria from another Amanita or another mushroom, this is not a beginner technique. This is an intermediate to advanced mushroom cooking technique. I just have to say that. This is my local Amanita muscaria. A lot of times you're going to see them as being red.
So pay attention to what he just said. I don't have to rewind it. You can. Pay attention. This is not beginner level. This is the intermediary, and that's suggesting that you should have some research and some firsthand experience with maybe somebody else that's done it.
Mine have kind of a yellow cast to them, depending on the mushroom. They might have a red center, but you're going to notice the warts on the top of the cap and those other things. The first thing you're going to do is obviously trim off those dirty bottoms. I left those on there so you can see the bulbous base, and you're going to cut the mushroom up into pieces, and this is going to help the muscimol and the water-soluble things that you wouldn't want to ingest come out into the water more quickly. I used to cook my muscaria whole. I kind of stopped doing that just because this makes me feel a little bit better about it. So just cut them into pieces. Goes pretty quick. You don't really have to worry about cleaning them perfectly, as you can see, because you're going to boil these things to the next dimension. Then the exact specifications are in the blog post and the recipe that goes along with this, so I would refer to that. For each pound of mushrooms, that's 1 pound there, I use 6 quarts. And you're going to I put about 2 tablespoons of salt in the water. You can add some herbs and aromatics if you want. Once it starts to boil, you keep the lid on the pot. Set a timer for 15 minutes. And you keep the lid on the entire time with the heat on high. So you want a big pot that's not going to splash all over the place. After 15 minutes of heavy...
Yeah, that's like a tribe somewhere that when their young men come of age, they have these little woven gloves that they fill with biting ants. And then these young men, to prove their manhood, have to put their hands in there and undergo the pain of the bites and the after effects of the intoxifying venom injections. Same kind of stuff. They're doing it through different methods to attain a certain mind-altering state.
Boiling, you're going to rinse them off and just take them out. They won't be all squishy or anything like that. They keep it really nice texture.
Yeah, and I might just go ahead and check out Paul Stamets, because I want to do some more videos on mushrooms. When we get done here, I've got some pictures to show you of mushrooms that I took pictures of, and some of them I ate while I was out there in New Hampshire.
There he is. The king is here. King Aiden is in the building. What up, Aiden? Let's go, Burn.
Press on, huh? Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you for
what's up,
having me.
brother?
How you doing?
Anytime.
I
We're
told you
doing
I'd
great.
join, right? Yeah, I know a little bit about mycology and that. I've studied
Yep.
it, done it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we just got
interesting.
done watching the first 3 videos, and they were telling us about the converting it through decarboxylation to muscimol, so you can actually ingest it.
Yeah. Like sometimes with the ibotanic acid, right? I think that's what's if we're in the meat muscaria. All right, so it can be processed through the liver, and the shaman times that actually like drink their own fucking piss. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's because they can still get those chemicals back when you urinate. They used to drink what was it, goat's piss. They'd have the goats eat it and then drink the
It's
goat's
like a
piss.
fucking reindeer. There's the whole idea of Santa Claus and a reindeer, Rudolph the fucking red-nosed, whatever.
Yeah, we watched a video earlier showing that, I think. So, it's an interesting concept of how it's used and can be reused. People talk about urine therapy, and this is actually, a valid concept because it's something they actually practiced. But it wasn't for, urine therapy. It was simply because it still had those musculine properties.
Better flavor than you'd expect too. Then I dry them off if I'm going to saute them. If you're going to put them in soup like miso soup, you don't have to dry them off. And then just as an example here, after they're boiled for 15 minutes in that quantity of water, you can fry them up. I would start with 2 ounces of cooked mushrooms for a beginner serving and move up from there. Don't serve them to anybody that doesn't know that they have to go through a detoxification process. And yeah, they're actually pretty good added to soup. The texture is kind of like calamari. I like them. So there you go.
Yes, and this is Forager Chef. Forager Chef. So go check him out, Forager Chef. And of course, he does a lot more than just mushrooms. He's got the various different herbs and spices and nuts and things like that. And this one here is chestnut flour. He's actually roasting chestnuts down to make flour. So all kinds of things that we can look into and
utilize.
Right. And as the Frequency Forge says down below, an important utilitarian mushroom is the tinder fungus because it readily takes a spark when you dry it out. So again, utilitarian meaning it's not just necessarily a health thing, it's a survival technique that you can use, finding certain mushrooms that is not just the only mushroom that will do that. You can find certain mushrooms that you can literally put in your tinder.
You know what's strange too? Not to interrupt, but mushrooms, technically, fungi, mycelium, all that, they're actually closer related than actually like to human beings. They're actually like closer to a mushroom for some reason. Because for example, they exhale or they produce like CO2.
Yep, and that's another thing they've noticed. Somewhere in Time says helps the liver. Mine is off the charts and never was a drinker. It can be flushed and balanced though. Yep. So
yeah, like Pero, like I'm not just like talking. Like I've done it before, right? Like over here, it's weird. Okay, like we have like mushroom dispensaries and stuff everywhere. Besides, they don't even hide it at all.
and you're
You know?
in
It's like sort
Canada.
of, yeah, so in Toronto, in Canada, and yeah, like they're like really, really nice shops and all that. Right? Like there's like hundreds of them, and they have all these different types of psychedelics or entheogens, whatever you want to call them. And it's technically not legal, but it's technically legal to grow them. But if you dry them, it becomes illegal. It's kind of weird. I don't know. They have weird laws and shit over it. And
Well, I think it's
yeah,
because it's getting into the line of production.
yeah, it's like, okay, if you want to use it for yourself. And I remember a family friend committed suicide, and when I got back home, the fucking mushrooms like came out of the mycelium, like literally like on command. It was, and I was scared to fucking take them and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Am I gonna? Whatever. But yeah, either way, it's amazing, right? You can make like mycelium, or well, there's all types of mycelium. It has like a thing with the trees, right? There's certain. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's like the biggest organism in the entire world is mycelium. Like it goes for kilometers and kilometers and miles and miles and miles. And it's like an interconnected web that works with nature and all that. But yeah, if you get some psilocybin mushrooms, you make them fresh in that, and you put them into it's like electric blue. If you make like a tea out of it, it's like a blue color, it looks like the fucking Gatorade, but like even more blue than that. It has to do with oxidation and all that. But yeah, right. So like, there's like different ways to produce it. The thing is, right, there's always competing fungi or funguses or bacteria. So you have to be very, very sterile with it in order to deal with it, to have that function and take over. Because you can get like other stuff that is going to mess with it and is no longer healthy. It's no longer something that, how do I say this? Anyways, like there's like, you get different types of molds or fungus or whatever.
Well, they start taking on certain nutrients that the other molds want to take in, and it becomes an adaptation thing to try to pick up other nutrients that are not existing. So if you got one mushroom that starts growing first, and then another one comes up needing the same nutrients, it's not able to grow as well.
Yeah, so it's like a competition. Yeah, they compete over whatever the source is, right? It's like the substrate. They call it a substrate. Right? So it's feeding off of something. And you can even look at this in life in a way. Right? There's resources and there's stuff there, and then like everybody's out there trying to compete for them. And it becomes a giant competition. And it really leads nowhere. Right? Whatever the dominant thing at that point in that environment will take over.
Yeah, and then Captain said earlier in the chat about how the largest known living organism is actually a mushroom, and I believe he's
it's
correct.
a mycelial network. It's mycelium. The mushroom is just like pretty much like a sex organ that comes out to reproduce and sporulate and all that. But what's really going on is underground, and now you can't see it from the surface. It's called the mycelial network. What's popping up on the surface is just a means to an end, right? It's just it's like the sex organ of this thing. It just pops up.
And you would think that you could dig up the mycelium and get a more potent content, but that's not how it works. Because again, it's a matter of the nutrients it's pulling up out of the soil. So the mycelium is more like a set of instructions
I think it's like pine or oak trees or something, and you know, like these things, they communicate. There's an intelligence to these, to the mycelial network and the mushrooms, and that it actually communicates, and is like I said, it was a symbiotic relationship, or it is a symbiotic relationship with different trees and flora, fauna, and you know, it all works together in tandem in a way where, yeah. It helps, like you know, the roots absorb nutrients and stuff in order to feed the plant. And, like, it breaks down stuff. Like there's even certain types of mushrooms that will break down chemicals and break down like pollution and even plastic.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was just going to mention. They're using mushrooms in new research to break down toxins, plastics, things like that. It's interesting.
It's very interesting, yeah. This kind of stuff, like I'm not too adept at mycology. I'm more into botany. But you know, I've definitely done my research on it. Like I don't know, I'm a kind of person that likes to, and you know, look into certain things and that. You know, maybe I'm being
Oh
a
yeah,
bit humble,
researching
but
and
I know
researching
lots
and
of
learning new stuff is great.
Of course, yeah, every single day. That's what I do. Like that's
why I decided to do the mushroom thing tonight, because it's a topic I haven't discussed yet. It's something I'm very intrigued about and have some kind of actual experience.
It's very, very intriguing, mycology and that. Like I said, I'm not talking from somebody who, I've actually went and did it, not just like using it, like creating it, which is like a way, way different thing. All right, so I know a little bit about it and the processes and
what have you got for firsthand experience? Have you done like microdosing? Have you done like the drying them out?
I've grown this stuff, man. I've done different ways, right? Like something called like a motto tub, but you know, I made my own way in a way. And yeah, it's like brown rice flour and vermiculite.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, because you grow your own
it can
cannabis
grow off
too, don't
anything.
you? Yeah, you grow your own cannabis too, don't you?
That's my main focus. I know a lot more about that and just agricultural stuff and horticulture than I do mycology, but I have done the mycology and you know, stuff like that. I've even delved into DMT, like, you know, creating it through an acid-based extraction, stuff like that. Like I'm pretty good at organic chemistry and stuff like this. You know, I kind of know about it. You know what I mean? I could probably teach classes or something.
Well, I was going to ask you too. Have you got any college experience, education, like biology?
I don't know. No, I went to a terrible school, and I magically graduated with 33 credits, even though I never showed up. And they let you cheat and do whatever the fuck you wanted because they won't have funding to keep the fucking schools open. So my education is more about, you know, like lived experience and, like, you know, on the road. And I don't have any formal education background at all, technically.
Yeah, same here. And that's why I say, you know, don't believe me, don't believe Cage, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Start learning how to do your research. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done my own research, and you know, I guess I don't have a credential over here. You can literally just buy one, right? I can have a PhD. Right? I just buy a PhD and be like, you call me Dr. fucking Cage now. But yeah. When it comes to, no, I'm not institutionalized like that at all. So.
Now, what about this here? The one on the screen here. This is called an Indian pipe mushroom or Indian pipe flower. And it's something that the natives use in the same manner as mushrooms. And it too grows from the mycelium. Yet it's not a mushroom. You know anything about these?
I don't know.
I'll have to do a video on these sometime too. I did one back in New Hampshire when I was out there, a little 2-minute video on this, but I didn't know enough about them at the time to be able to make a real good video. But I'll have to look it up and do a video on these specifically, because if we can propagate these have a lot of potential, just like those mushrooms.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's something I have to look into. I haven't. What is it called again?
Indian pipe flowers.
Indian pipe flowers. Okay.
So let's take a look at this next video. This is the Amanita Dreamer, and she's going to come on and tell us about, this is an update on dosing. And she's the one that was being spoke about in the earlier first 3 videos from Stone Age Man.
Hello, beautiful people. It's been a couple of years since I made my original dosing video, so I wanted to do just sort of a quick, concise update. If you're new to my channel, I'm Amanita Dreamer. This mushroom saved my life. My story is here because of censorship. The bulk of the information is going to be at amanitadreamer.net. I don't need your email address or anything. You can just go there and watch them. It'll be in the dosing playlist. I have everything broken down by playlist. And if you want to get involved in our community, it's mushroomvoice.com. So let's get into it. So dosing on this mushroom, a lot of people try to speak about it in terms of dry, how many. And that's how you talk about psilocybin. You can't talk about this the same way. And the reason is hot dosing. So from one mushroom to the next, you can have a variability as much as 10 times. And it's not by size either. So this could have 10 times the amount of actives in it as one that size, sitting right next to each other. And it's not about where they grow. It's more about when in the season they grow and potentially how big, how far open they are versus how far closed they are. So the best thing to do is to make the tea, and that normalizes the solution. Please don't just try to take these one at a time. Also, they are heavy in ibotenic acid until you put heat to them, like simmering them in a tea or making an oil extraction with them. And then there's other methods that you can fully convert that use fermentation and bacteria. So when you go to use these, please don't talk about them in dried grams, and please don't try to eat them.
So she mentioned all 3 things that we went over earlier with the different processes: the drying out, the boiling, the adding of acids or other things to substantiate what kind of dose you want.
That way you will overdose on ibotenic acid. Ibotenic acid is good. It has many uses. I talk about that on my channel. So please make the tea. I have a video on how to make the tea. This is just a quick dosing video to say, here's the updated information. So in my microdosing videos, I talk about making the tea and making sure that you start small and work your way up, or microdosing. And I have a protocol also on amanitadreamer.net. And then if you want to macrodose, which is very important, and I really hope you do, I have a video on how to find your macrodose.
And that's what they were mentioning also earlier, is that they find better results with the macrodose. So it's a matter of microdosing up to a limit that you know you're getting a macrodose. It's kind of like an alcoholic being able to know, hey, I'm at a certain point, now it's time to stop. So from now on, I can drink this much and I'm done. Same thing with this stuff. Know your max.
And I have videos on what to expect and the effects of this mushroom. And then all of the mental health issues that I believe it works well with, including addictions and helping people get off substances. And I say this from about 4 years of experience now and working with thousands of people and hearing from people, traveling and working with this mushroom in the wild and with other people who work with this mushroom. So it's as concise as I can get without the science, because we have very little science on this. What science we do have, I talk about here on this channel and at amanitadreamer.net. Some of the small amounts of science that we do have, we already do know ibotenic acid affects the cholinergic and the glutamate channels, and then the muscimol affects GABA channels, transmitters and receptors. And then we know from...
And when she's talking about those receptors, she's talking about that neuroplasticity that we spoke of in the earlier video. And so when it comes to somewhere in time, it says, Wiz, what do you think manna was in the Bible? Mushrooms, possibly. I only think that because of a couple of scripts and stories talk about the abundance in the morning dew under every rock. Curious, in my opinion, I would be of the same type of opinion that it could very much be mushrooms or some kind of fungus. Absolutely.
the beginnings of
So,
some by a
not to
corporation called
interrupt, if you
C.O.W.A.R.D.S.
could pause it quickly. So yeah, the ghost.
We lost you.
All right, can you hear me now?
We got you back.
Okay. So the thing you were showing me before is called a ghost plant. It's kind of odd. Monotropa uniflora, also known as the ghost plant, ghost pipe or Indian pipe, is a herbaceous, parasitic, non-photosynthesizing, perennial flowering plant native to temperate regions of Asia, North America, and northern South America, but with large gaps in between areas. Okay, that's quite the. I think I've seen them before.
Yeah, the gaps they're talking about are mountains. You're generally like ginseng, you're generally going to find them in certain climates, and the climates tend to be mountainous type climates.
Interesting. Yeah, it's stuff like this, like, okay, like nature, pretty much like, all right, for example, animals and different things, they use sonar, or they use electromagnetic fields to navigate and all that, and then we kind of reverse engineer it and create something like called like a telephone. Or, you see birds fly, and then you have a jet. We're kind of mimicking nature in a way and building it up. So how does that really work?
Well, in regards to this stuff, the medical industry is trying to emulate the natural system, but the problem is it's all synthetic. They're not using actual derivatives to put towards the people because they can't make any profit off of it. It's stuff that people can do naturally, so they wouldn't need a doctor.
You can't patent nature, right?
Right.
So then they have to like manipulate the molecule, change it a bit, and then all of a sudden you can call it a name and make profit off of it.
Right,
So,
and it will subside your pain. It will relax your muscles, things like this. That natural herbs and stuff like that will do for you if you know what to do. You know how to cook them, how to prepare them, where they're at, what they are. This is all lost knowledge.
yeah, it is, and you got to be careful, right? Sorry to
Switching into
interrupt.
modern medicine.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. There's something in alchemy called spagyrics. It even depends on the day and the cycle of the moon and all that. But yeah, spagyrics is pretty much is like taking the essence, a spirit out of that being, and utilizing it as a medicine or something. It could even be a poison, right? It goes back to Paracelsus.
Well, it's kind of
yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing as the astrological chart with people. It's through the seasons, depending on what the temperature is, what the moisture is, what the nutrients are, what time of the year, how long the sun was out for that day, different things like that. It creates a different character in the plants that are growing in those times.
It does. And it goes to alchemy and spagyrics and Paracelsus, as I was mentioning before. And so apparently, like for example, a tomato plant. The leaves is in the nightshade family, and even the leaves there are poisonous to you. Kind of like castor oil making rice in or something. But yeah, the leaves of a tomato plant are poisonous, so you don't want to put that into your food, right? We got to realize these compounds, and I guess over time people realize, right? You fuck around, you find out, kind of thing. So people realize like this kills, this is not going to work, and then people wrote that down and like pass that knowledge on to other people over time.
Let us know how that goes, Poppy Gold. Poppy Gold says I have 20 capsules of Jedi Mindfuck, and I'm about to drop 5.
Oh no! Oh fuck! Okay. Oh, use the fucking Force or whatever.
All right, let's get on with the rest of this one real quick.
Yeah.
That it is working on stress and the stress response, which, glutamate and GABA balancing the fight or flight system. And then we have preliminary information on the ACE2 receptors and inflammation, which here on my channel, we were already using topically for pain. And I've been using orally for inflammation and pain. So that sort of lends credence to some of the stuff that we're getting from ancient use, indigenous use, lore, stories, recipes from around the world, and then our anecdotal information and use that I'm congregating from my own experiments and then from others. That's all the science that we have.
And notice again, she reiterated what we discussed again earlier is topical and oral ingestion. So, you know, there's different ways you can use this stuff.
And topical means like transdermally, right? Through the biggest
Right.
organ.
Right.
Yeah.
Using a tincture and
No, a tincture is
rubbing it.
like usually a tincture relates to something that you put under your tongue sublingually or like in the other way
Right,
is
but you
swallow
can
it.
also make tinctures that you can wash your body with, you know.
Oh, that's like more of a topical
Or
thing, right? Because
right,
it's transdermal, right?
right.
The dermal or derma.
And I've seen
Skin,
people
the
that would
biggest
mix
organ. Yeah.
yeah, and I've seen people just mix it with conditioner, you know, some kind of skin
Okay.
conditioner.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a topical.
Everything else that I say.
Yeah, it particularly like the ground stuff, you know, the dried stuff, instead of the wet tincture, the dried stuff, they would, you know, real fine powders and mix it with the conditioner and then spread it on their skin. And that way, as the conditioner was soaking in, it would take the attributes of the
And
mucilin.
Wiz, not to interrupt, but I am restreaming this to quote it's not my channel, to the channel over there.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Appreciate getting it out,
do
brother.
should I drop your link in there. Like I don't know. You may or
Sure,
may not
appreciate it.
show up on that end, right? But, yeah.
Well, whatever, man. As long as we got people.
Okay. Yeah. I figured I'd show up because this is stuff that intrigues me, fascinates me, and it's like what I do. Like I'm an investigator when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah. And you know what? I don't know. Like I think I'm kind of knowledgeable about it. You know, I have way more to learn. It's a lifelong endeavor to learn stuff like that. That's what I do.
Yep. The frequency forge says, look up usnea, USNEA. It's a lichen and is a powerful antibiotic that I use for tooth infections. Be sure to know the difference between it and wolf's hair fungus, which often grows right beside it. That's another thing. There are a lot of different things like lichen. There are different
Especially
kinds
with the
of lichen.
mushrooms, right? Yeah, they mimic each other. Like you got
Well,
like a
your
morel,
lichen,
and then you got like a death cap, like right beside
well,
it.
your
It's like,
your lichen is almost like an attractant for mycelium somehow. I've seen mushrooms on top of a 6-inch post where the lichen was, which isn't connected to the ground except by the post. So somewhere the mycelium net grew up on that
have you
post.
ever, Pero, have you ever looked into these like forms and stuff when it comes to mycology? For example, like shroomery or like DMT nexus or something. Like there's people out there and they literally use a Bible to grow a mushroom off of. Which I don't know about doing all that.
Yeah, I saw a picture once of
You
a
seen
book
that
with
one?
mushrooms growing out of it. I don't know if it was a Bible, but I saw mushrooms growing out of a book.
Literally off a Bible, a Quran, a fucking Torah. It doesn't really matter. Talmud.
Well, that's what a gal said earlier. She says she's got some growing right out of her windowsill. You know,
These fucking things, like, yeah, it's difficult to do to try controlling, but yeah, it just naturally happened apparently. Like cow shit. You go into the farmer's field and pick up a psilocybin cubensis. Cubensis, why is it called that? Because it's from Cuba. The only time I've ever been out of this country was in Cuba. So I've been to Cuba. Yeah. And,
all right. Well, let's finish this video up, brother.
all right. One last thing. When I was in Cuba, they had like a chessboard, but it's massive to the point where all the pieces are like as tall or if not taller than you. You play chess like that. Holy fuck. All right. My bad.
Yep.
It is anecdotal from working with people with this mushroom. And the ibotenic acid side is very important for many things. And I have a whole playlist on ibotenic acid. I don't mean to like keep sending you over there. It's just so much information. It's too much to put in one video. It would alienate everybody and everyone has different interests in it. Ibotenic acid people are using for high gamma flow states, for focus, for attention, for motivation, for getting things done. A lot of people are using it in our community. We have an ADD, ADHD Zoom group and they talk about this there. There's so much to learn about this mushroom. It's so highly valuable and medicinal. So there's just a lot to say. And the only reason I'm making this video is just to make sure I let anyone new to the channel know right off the bat, don't grab this and eat it raw. Just don't do that. You'll overdose on ibotenic acid. But it's a great medicine. Please use it. I tell the world, please use it. So amigdreamer.net, mushroomvoice.com. I have lots of mental health videos here on YouTube that don't get censored, things that I can keep here. And I leave as much Amanita information here as I think I can get away with because of harsh censorship. Welcome to the channel. I love you, beautiful people.
Oh, look, she threw up the heart. Wait, we got Laundry in here. Laundry, I've never talked to you before. If you'd like to come talk about mycology and that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
you
come
did
on
with
up,
the
brother.
guys.
It's
Yeah,
we're
doing
coming
very
to
good.
the end here, but anything you've got to input would be greatly appreciated. Don't know if you've got any experience with mushrooms or anything, but would still love to have you on board if you got any questions. And then this is Amanita Dreamer, like I said, that was mentioned in the first guy's video. This is her channel. Go check her out. And you know, again, she's high on the mushrooms. So, and she's talking about various different types of mushrooms as well, but Amanita is one of her main, and she has different products. Again, tinctures and stuff, like the ones I was talking about that you use as topical would be like an oil tincture that you can just use like a skin lotion.
Can we search up someone since we're on? You're sure? Can we search up P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S alchemy tincture and just see what pops up? Why not? You know, let's do an investigation here. P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T S, right? I can spell it out for you if you want.
I got it.
Yeah.
Spagyric alchemy is a method for preparing superior herbal extracts by separating a plant into its fundamental components: sulfur and mercury and salt, and then recombining them, creating a more potent and therapeutic product. The term coined Paracelsus derives from Greek words meaning to separate and to combine. This process aims to extract the full medicinal and spiritual benefits of a plant, moving beyond simple tincture to full spectrum extract containing all of the plant's vital essences. Interesting.
All right, so now we can go into fermentation, distillation, calcination, recombining, and yeah, it gets very, very deep. This is my field of expertise, technically. I'm nowhere near an expert at any of it, but this is what I look into. All right, so we go into the alchemical process there.
Yeah, and
if you want to continue reading. Right?
Well, that's what before we go, continue. I will reiterate that the human body itself is an alchemical reactor. It is a battery setup that operates on acids, nutrients, your polarization, all of it. So we have to understand our connection as an alchemical body and how it relates to the decarboxylation and muscarine and all of that as it relates to our health, not just our neuroplasticity, evidently, but for pain relief and various other things. So let's continue on here. It says, the spagyric process. The plant material is macerated in a solvent, often alcohol, to create an initial tincture and separate the liquid components. The plant matter undergoes fermentation, a process to break down the plant and potentiate its essences. Distillation. Volatile oils and other essences are distilled to capture the mercury component, spiritual or energetic component. Calcination, as it relates to salt, says the remaining plant material, mark, is calcined or burned to a fine. Remember, I was talking about wine and fining it. It's taking those fine particles white ash, fine white ash. This process extracts the salt's physical mineral component. Lye and recombination. The ash is dissolved in distilled water and treated with a lye, a process repeated multiple times to create a
Sodium
pure.
hydroxide. So the pH is something, you know, we have, sorry to interrupt, there's something called acidic, and then you have something called alkaline. So it's a very, the alkalinity of it, that's lye with a Y-E, not an L-I-E, L-Y-E. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and it creates a soluble salt. Soluble meaning you can absorb it. The purified salt, mercury, and sulfur components are recombined to create the final, highly potent spagyric extract. This is where they're talking about the macro doses. This would be the process, like we explained earlier, where you can boil it and you're going to have a certain percentage. But if you turn around and use an acid on it, it builds it up. And then if you turn around and do something else, I can't remember what it was. I need another hit. Milk. Put it in milk, and you get 90%. So you're getting a highly potent spagyric extract.
Yeah, so it's pretty much taking the essence and recombining it. Like you're going to take all the faculties, every single part of it, individually, and then recombining it in a certain way with intention through the mind. And this would be done across the board, especially when it comes to reality and how you know reality is pretty much mirrored, if you want to call it a mirror, is put back onto the observer, all right, in a way.
Yeah. Well,
so it's curated to the observer and the individual, if you want to call it that.
The somewhere in time says can only get hands on capsules. I don't know.
You can
go
get
on Stripper
hands-on
downtown.
free.
I built the sphere, and I still don't go for free.
Just fuck that. If you want something done correctly, do it yourself.
Exactly. That's what I was getting ready to say. You know, I wouldn't get the stuff from somebody else. I wouldn't, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I wouldn't order any of this stuff through the mail. It would be something that you would order the spores so you grow yourself. And that's what
yeah, it's very easy to do. It's not
Walter Limestone Bank says, or some floating spores might have landed on the dusty bug shit, which likely sat stuck on top of the old pole.
You know what I mean? If you want something done, it was like my grandmother that I never met on my mother's side, right? She passed away. She had ovarian cancer, apparently. She was a teacher, apparently, and all that. I never met her. I never had the opportunity to meet her. But the one thing that has been passed down is if you want something done right, do it yourself. That quote.
Yep. And when it goes to the some floating spores might have landed on the dusty bug shit, that may be so, but there's still got to be what I was questioning as relates to the spores on top of that post was the fact that where is the communication with the mycelium? See, the spores are the sexual organs, and they only sprout with a communication with the mycelium. So I'm wondering how the mycelium communication gap is working there.
Okay, well, that's very interesting, right? Like, it's akin, in my opinion, through my research and that, it's akin to the Earth's magnetic field, you know, the Schumann resonance and all that. How everybody and every brain is somehow connected into something that's not visibly
So there's
there.
a certain frequency and a range, and that range is obviously just so many feet off the ground because it actually spreads across most of every piece of dirt on Earth.
That's a good way to kind of talk about it. Yeah, you know, there's the mycelial network, for example, is underground, right? You don't visually look at it, but there's something going on. There's a background process, almost like an algorithmic kind of thing going on. Like we're on YouTube, and either way is there. And how do I explain it? difficult. We got the ghost fucking thing again. So we got
Indian pipe mushroom or Indian pipe flower, ghost pipe.
yeah. The G host, right? G host in it. Been a host on there. El Perro. El Perro. What does that mean in Spanish, man?
Well, it would be ELPERRO in Spanish, and that would mean the dog or the butt or the butt. Sometimes it might mean butt,
so
depending on where exactly what.
Okay.
It's like American English and British English. There might be slight differences. So it sometimes tends to mean the butt. So, and most of the time it means the dog.
Okay. Well, the dog. Okay, dog is God spelled backwards, man's best friend, which is kind of odd, which I've looked into. And then, we'll look at a fetus, right? Like, okay, what, before your heart, before your brain, and everything. Apparently, the butt is formed first in the womb. Why is that? To me, it means like, okay, you need some excrement. Or you need, like, it's like an input output, right? You need the output to go in back to the fertilizer or whatever. I mean, these things do not grow, these mushrooms, if you don't have a fertilizer. I don't know. It gets pretty deep, right? Probably like outside of my acumen, even.
Well, I know.
I'm a fucking idiot, you know what I mean? Like, trust me, but there's so much to learn out here. Like, I know.
Well, I know you mentioned morels earlier, and around here we get a good crop of morels, and I've been doing morels for many years. And back when I had my house, it surprised me. The last year I lived there, I walked out the back door, and there were all kinds of morels right there in my backyard. Shit, I must have pulled 4 pounds right out of my backyard, easy.
Oh wow, yeah. But there's also mimicking mushrooms, right? So the morel there's also another one that looks just like it.
Well, these were both types, even both the brown and these were both types, the brown and the gray morels. It was interesting. I was just astounded.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with it. You know what I mean? We gotta, like I said in mycology, the only way to differentiate really, because there's mimicry, is to look at the spore print under a microscope, and then you can differentiate between different species.
Yeah, now you're getting deep into it, and that's important.
You're right, bud.
Yep, that's important, and that's why we need to get into that kind of stuff to bring this knowledge back. Because when we can start understanding those spore patterns and recognize them for what they are, we can tell the mimicking ones in certain ways, like the death cap. There are so many questions about the death cap. I wouldn't venture to even think about that. So I would definitely look at those spores.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You gotta be real careful with this stuff because it's no fucking joke. Okay. It's a joke. It's not gonna be a fucking joke, and you're paralyzed, and there's stuff like fucking torture the fuck out of you. You gotta be real careful with it.
And it's amazing too, because we talked about the reindeer earlier, and it's not just reindeer, it's squirrels, rabbits, all kinds of critters out there that eat these mushrooms. And when I was out in New Hampshire during that season, there were several times I saw squirrels and rabbits that were actually very intoxicated off of mushrooms. And you could tell because you could see that there were mushrooms in the area that they'd been eating on.
Well, even they know, like, eventually, maybe it's like through genetic memory, something like that. They'll know not to eat these toxic things, right? So
yeah, and that's an interesting thing there too, because like I mentioned, in these modern times, we're getting away from this stuff, and I think that's because modern modernization and the Industrial Revolution and everything has caused us to think that our progression is to get away from nature. And that's actually costing us, I think. And that's why, again, I urge everybody to start learning things, particularly when it comes to getting back to the agrarian lifestyle and learning what Mother Nature really has to offer us. Because I think it has a much greater potential, because we've literally lost our instincts and intuition to the natural world, to this modernization. In my
Somebody in the
opinion.
comments said the golden preachers. They're actually called golden teachers, not preachers, but yeah. Again, when you're gonna do anything, even just regular stuff like caffeine, like a coffee or something, or anything at all that changes your acumen, your mind, you gotta be very careful and know what you're doing. So personally, I would never ever recommend anybody doing something like a mushroom. I'm talking about the magic kind, or DMT, or any of these epigens, or whatever you want to call them, unless you understand exactly how it's operating. You know, do your research. Don't listen to anybody. Like, thank goodness, as Mr. Perro said earlier, Mr. Wizard. You know, do not do anything. Well, do whatever you like, but I'm saying, yeah, at least understand how it's operating. You should get some fucking knowledge, like understand what you're doing to yourself before you go and do it, and it has some fucking weird effect on you that you never even realized, right? Because some people
I
never
think
get.
I think
Some
it's
people never
important.
get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that spagyric process we were talking about, whether you be boiling them, drying them, whatever. You need to understand all those processes so that you can get to that macro thing, if that's what you're going to do. Again, if you're going to get back to the agrarian lifestyle, I think this is one of the most important elements when it comes to herbs and vitamins and nutrients and stuff, is to look into the mushroom world.
Yeah, and as we were saying earlier too, mushrooms are actually closer to any human being than a plant or an animal is. Really, if you look into
Yeah,
it.
we'll have to do some research on that too, because like I said, folks, I want to start doing some videos on mushrooms, and I think the next one we're going to do is on turkey tail. So remind me.
Turkey tail is amazing.
Yeah, and I think remind me of what you just said there, so we can do a topic on that as well. Oops.
Yeah, like the biology behind a human being, and I don't know, we'll certify them. But yeah, the biology behind, okay, like we'll look at a chimpanzee or a fucking orangutan or whatever. We're actually closer.
Well, even a banana, we have a certain percentage of DNA that correlates. You know, I
Yeah.
think it's rather high. A banana, for crying out loud.
Oh, for fuck. Yeah, so we're closer to this fungus or mycelium. So this is like kind of in the Matrix, right? In a way, they're like, even in the Matrix movie, like, yeah, they try saying like human beings are like a fungus or like a disease to this fucking planet, which it's kind of true, right? Or Smith that the fuck up, because in a way, they're right. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do? All we do is like we go out here and we disparage everything, everybody around us, and it's all about me, and this fucking retarded ego going amok. And what does it lead to? It leads to like literally damaging Mother Nature. You don't fuck with mom. You don't fuck with mom. That's a real mom for everybody and every being on this planet. Nobody's motherless or fatherless over here, okay? You got time, you got Chronos, you got Mother Nature, called the Earth, right? And the Earth is an anagram for heart. So it goes back to that.
Yeah, I think we need to get back to the observance of our Mother Nature. That's why we call it Mother Earth.
Yeah, it's a feminine aspect of it, right? Like
well, yeah, that's the feminine role in the societies that we build, is to be teachers of our young ones. That's why it's our grandmas that taught our moms how to do all the canning and stuff, and the gardening and things like that. But again, that's the kind of stuff that's going by the wayside because of this modernization.
Oh, but then you got Father Time, right? Chronos, Saturn, which pretty much runs like society. Right? You got Father fucking Time on here.
Yeah, well,
Respect the language.
it's a schedule of obligations according to her season. 7 days a week, you pay a Sabbath.
Oh, but they work
7
together. It's
years,
like yin
you pay a
it's like,
Sabbath.
it's like yin and yang. The Sabbath, Saturn day, right? Sabbath. Oh, Christians, they like doing it on Sunday. Actually, Sunday you get the fuck back. But either way, there's something there, and it
There's
works
some
in
lion's
tandem.
mane too. We're gonna
Yeah.
I'll do one on lion's mane. That's got a lot of nice, healthy
Oh,
components
the
too.
lion's mane. What about oyster? The oyster is great.
Yep.
The lion's mane.
Well, that's
reishi. The reishi is amazing.
chanterelles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why not? Like, okay. If you study mycology, you'll probably learn a lot about yourself and how this world's operating in general. So mycology, I learned so much off of that. I'm grateful for that. I have gratitude. I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to learn something like that. You don't got to pay for it. Everything is there in your fingertip, whatever. It's in your palm. It's in your hand. So why not learn, right? Like the information's out there. Like nobody's holding you back. So just go ahead, go learn. It's not for everybody, right? Because you can't. For some people, it's like too much. It's like an information overload, right?
Well, yeah, the frequency forge, as you were saying that, says my cousin is a walking wilderness encyclopedia. I'm trying to catch up to him.
And a shout out to my cousin fucking David over here. Yeah. They don't fucking play games and shit. They'll fucking ruin you. You know what I mean? But they'll love you too at the same time. It depends, As long as they don't cross the fucking line, you're good.
And then the tribe comes in with fun fact: 8 types of mushrooms cure every disease known to man. Hey, get with me, the tribe. Like I was saying, I want to do a series on mushrooms. So I'm starting out tonight with this one on Amanita muscaria, and we plan on doing turkey tail next, and then we're going to do the genetics and how they relate to mankind through the genomes and stuff. So
what about but look, you know what's funny as fuck? I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, the cordyceps. You know the cordyceps, they grow out of like bugs and they take over the fucking being and just grow out of them when their fucking bodies, like, they've been moved on. Like cordyceps, they had a whole fucking video game and a whole series about this shit. You don't remember The Last of Us?
I know I don't. I don't.
You haven't looked. Oh, we should look into The Last of Us. They made a video game about it, and then they made a whole fucking series about.
Yeah.
And
the tribe says lion's mane has been my favorite lately. Delicious too. How do you prepare it? Because lion's mane is one that you don't have to do a tincture or anything. You can I cut it down into flat little kind of like chips, because you can take each branch and make a nice flat cut all the way across the plant and just do it like a potato and take another slice. And you get these nice little branches that you can flour and then fry up.
Oh, wow. Have you ever had scalloped potatoes, bro? Scalloped potatoes are pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. See, lion's mane is good for allergies. Look, it's good for a lot of things. It's also like dandelion. It's good natural antibiotic.
I was playing that the other day. There's this lady, and
nice.
She does a great depression cooking, and she told people about the dandelions, right? Which is kind of weird, because it's called a wish, right? When the dandelion sporulates and moves around land somewhere to create more, they're everywhere. And I think it's like a weed. It's not a weed. It's not like an invasive. When shit hits the fan, I'm definitely gonna be eating dandelion salad.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of things. We get into this herbal stuff, which is what I hope this will expand to eventually. There's all kinds of things you can use. There are certain types of mosses that aren't that kind of grow extensive up off the ground. So you can actually cut them down like you would sprouts. Hold on. You could actually cut them down kind of like sprouts and have a nice little green bed of greens that are good for you.
Oh wow!
You know, that's a moss. That's a moss.
Oh wow!
You know, so
moss. You can tell the time through moss and shit on the tree. You can literally tell time through the moss on the tree, depending on where it's acclimated to.
yep. And then the tribe comes back in regards to the lion's mane, heals neurons too. Yeah, we just spoke about that with the animata.
Neuroplasticity, right?
Right, neuroplasticity. It's most of your mushrooms are good for that. That's why even your portobello mushrooms, you know, if you don't have any kind of mushrooms, at least start with portobello mushrooms and try to implement them in your diet heavily, because that's something that's not toxic at all, but it's still going to have the properties in there as to regards to the neuroplasticity. It's not just magic mushrooms that work on that level.
Yeah, it's a great thing to eat. You know what I mean? Like personally, what I do is I get the frying pan really, really hot. Not that hot to the point where it's smoking. But yeah, you put a little bit of olive oil or whatever oil you may be available to you. And then, you fry the mushrooms and put a little bit of salt and pepper on there. Good.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple comments I want to read off real quick while we're talking about this, the cooking and stuff. Poppy Gold says a lot of what we are conditioned to call weeds are healing herbs. Correct. So we can dry them up and put them in our spices and stuff. And then Frequency Forge says the fiddleheads and dandelions are two things I eat every spring without fail. I am craving them before the snow is even gone. Now, fiddleheads are a lot like ferns, but they're fuzzy and stuff.
What are fiddleheads? I got to educate on that.
Well, let me see if I can pull a picture up. I ate these while I was out in New Hampshire, and she is absolutely right. They're excellent.
Okay.
It's a greens, and they grow looking. Oops.
I'm not a know-it-all, but I'm somebody who learns every fucking day. So eventually, when I'm your age, I don't even want to know what I know at that point. You know what I mean? Guess how old I am, Wizard?
20.
No, a bit older.
So this is a fiddlehead, okay? And like I said, they look like ferns, but at the top, they're curled up and they're a little bit fuzzier than a regular fern. They have a light layer of fuzz on them. And what you do is you just fry them up.
Okay.
Batter them up and fry them. That's the way we have
Batter?
them.
Okay. Well, something to nourish yourself with.
Oops.
Yeah.
Let me, I didn't get it up there. There we go. So those are fiddleheads.
I see 3 different. Okay. It kind of looks like okra. It reminds me kind of like a mixture between okra and a dandelion.
Yeah. And it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I will attest to that. All right. Well, I think we have come to the end for tonight. Like I said, I want to do this on a regular, so would appreciate you coming back and bringing any research you've got, and maybe we'll keep in touch in the meantime and go back and forth to build it up, to have something set up for the turkey tails next time I come up.
All right. Yeah. Next time we'll go into the turkey tail mushroom. All right. Okay.
Sounds good.
We'll look into that. Thank you very much for having me and everybody listening. There's lots of research, and this right here is something important, very, very important, and we should probably look into it more.
Absolutely,
I'm trying to learn myself, right? I'm learning. Thank you, man.
Well, that's what it's about, and I appreciate your help, support, and input. So thanks for coming up. We're going to end it here, folks. And you guys know me. Oops. Wrong one. You guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't like me. That part's on you. So may your God respect you and love you and bless you. And we'll see you next time. Oops, where'd it go? Where'd it go? There we go.
It's a shit show, but it's a hit, yo. Panel full of talkers, all bark, no soul. Drama's on tap, spilling fast and loud. Dollar signs flashing when they rile the crowd. Super chats rolling, they pay for the beef. Truth takes a backseat, clouds the belief. It's a shit show, baby, primetime gold. Numbers climb high while the morals get sold. Turn up the heat, let the chaos flow. Ain't about truth, it's a rodeo. If the views keep coming and the cash still grow, I'll stop the circus, let the madness go. Fake tears fall and the mic gets cut. One's playing victim, the other talks tough. Receipts get dropped, now the chat's on fire. A digital bonfire built from liars. But every low blow makes the money ring, so they keep on dancing in that drama swing. It's a shit show, baby, primetime gold. Numbers climb high while the malls get sold. Turn up the heat, let the chaos flow. Ain't no God truth, it's a radio. If the views keep coming and the cash still grow, I stop the circus, let the madness grow. There's a spotlight on the petty, and flame's just clicks away. They don't care who they bury, as long as someone pays. It's a shit show, baby, but the lights still shine. Even fake crowns look good online. One big game where the real get played, but the scoreboard's few, so the lights stay paid. Yeah, it's messy, ugly, and kind of slow.